It's the timing of it that gets me.
Hmm.
That's the part that I think keeps most of us up at night, staring at the ceiling.
Right.
It's not just that the politics feel volatile or that the economy feels shaky. It's that the politics are volatile while the weather's breaking records, while the supply chains are snapping, while the mental health data is just falling off a cliff.
It's the simultaneity of it all.
Yes, the simultaneity.
It's the convergence, that sense that the firewall between different types of chaos has, just come down.
Exactly. And usually when we try to wrap our heads around this, whether we're doom scrolling or just talking over dinner, we try to find the bad guy.
Of course.
We treat history like a crime procedural. We want a suspect. We say, okay, who broke the economy? Or which generation ruined the housing market? Or who ignored the climate models?
Which is emotionally satisfying? Sure, it gives you a target. It gives you somewhere to point the finger.
Right.
But it's analytically useless.
Useless. That's a strong word.
It is useless.
Hmm.
Because it assumes these are separate events caused by separate bad actors.
Okay.
It assumes that if we just swapped out the people in charge, the problems would vanish. But today, we are looking at a document that suggests we are looking at the map, completely upside down.
How so?
We aren't dealing with a crime scene. We are dealing with a physics problem.
A physics problem. Okay, so this is the text we're diving into today.
Yeah.
The physics of civilizational resonance.
That's the...
And I have to say, when I first opened this, I expected another dry sociological treatise. But this is different.
It is different.
It's dense, it's mechanical, and it's honestly a little unnerving.
It's a synthesis. It takes systems theory, acoustics, and nonlinear dynamics and applies them to history.
Right.
And the central argument is that civilizations don't just happen as a series of random political choices.
Right.
They operate on frequencies, they behave like sound waves, and right now, the text argues we're living through a phase shift.
A phase shift? Okay, what does that mean? Like water turning to steam.
Exactly that, a thermodynamic change of state. And if you understand the physics of the wave, you understand why the steam burns.
So I want to be clear about our mission for this deep dive. We are going to try to do something pretty difficult today. We're going to try to replace the anxiety of everything is falling apart with a new vocabulary. The goal isn't to solve the crisis in the next hour. That's definitely above our pay grade. But to move from panic to orientation.
Orientation is the perfect word. We aren't promising comfort, we're promising a compass, a way to see where you are, even in the storm.
A compass.
Yeah.
I like that. So let's start with the bedrock concept of this entire framework, the standing wave.
Right.
Now, to me, a standing wave is what happens when I pluck a guitar string. It vibrates in place, the energy moves, but the shape stays still. How on earth does that apply to the global economy or the history of the West?
Well, think about that guitar string. You put energy into it, the pluck, and because the string is tied down at both ends, that energy is trapped. It bounces back and forth, interfering with itself until it locks into a stable pattern of vibration. It finds a groove. It hums.
Resonate.
It resonates. And the authors of this text argue that civilizations are exactly the same. A society is just a massive collection of energy, human labor, natural resources, desires, fears, capital.
I love it. Just energy.
All of it. Initially, it's chaotic. But eventually, all that energy locks into a stable pattern. It finds a groove.
And that groove is the standing wave.
Precisely. It's the invisible architecture of normal.
Normal.
It's not a law written down in the Constitution. It's deeper. It's the attractor state. It's the set of incentives, cultural assumptions, and physical infrastructures that make certain behaviors effortless and other behaviors, almost impossible.
So it's the path of least resistance.
It's the path of least resistance on a civilizational scale. And for the last 300 years, really since the onset of the Industrial Revolution, our civilization has locked into a very specific, very loud standing wave.
The text actually lists the notes of this chord we've been playing, and I want to go through them because when you lay them out like this, it feels less like a list of habits and more like a diagnosis.
It is a diagnosis.
So the first note is extraction over regeneration.
Which is the fundamental thermodynamic engine of the modern world. It is the core assumption.
What assumption is that?
The assumption that we can take from the source, whether that's pulling oil out of the ground, pulling nutrients out of the soil, or pulling productivity out of a worker faster than that system can repair itself.
And we don't just do this, we incentivize it. We build our entire economy around it.
We do.
If a CEO goes into a board meeting and says, we made less money this quarter, but we regenerated the local ecosystem, they get fired.
Instantly.
If they say, we extracted record profits by liquidating our assets, they get a bonus.
That's the resonance. The system amplifies the behavior that strengthens the waves. The standing wave maintains itself by rewarding the parts that vibrate in sync with it.
Okay, so what's the second note in the chord?
The second note is growth over balance.
Right.
The assumption that bigger is always better, and that equilibrium is essentially death.
If you aren't growing, you're dying. I've heard that in every business meeting I've ever been in.
We all have.
Yeah.
Which is physically absurd in a finite system, but it's the logic of the waves. It's what feels normal.
Okay, what's next?
Then you have speed over coherence. We prioritize velocity. How fast can we ship the product? How fast can we send the email over whether the destination actually makes sense? We value the movement more than the direction.
We're obsessed with speed.
Completely. And finally, maybe the most dangerous note of all, short-term gain over long-term consequence.
That's the discount rate, right?
Yeah.
We value $1 today significantly more than a livable planet in 50 years.
That's it, exactly. It's built right into our financial models.
But here's where I think the text does something brilliant. Because usually when we hear a list like that, extraction, greed, speed, we immediately jump to moral judgment.
We do.
We say humanity is wicked or capitalism is evil.
Right, we reach for those labels.
But the authors stop us. They say, efficiency is not wisdom.
That's such a key line. They aren't wagging their finger. They are explaining the mechanics. They are asking, why did this wave persist? Why did it become the standing wave?
And the answer?
And the answer is, because it was incredibly efficient.
It worked.
It worked miraculously well. You don't get a global industrial civilization by accident. This pattern of extraction and speed created the caloric surplus that allowed the human population to explode. It built the hospitals, the internet, the roof over your head. It conquered diseases. A standing wave establishes itself because it solves problems. It optimizes for a specific set of variables.
So we locked into this pattern because it was delivering the goods.
Exactly. But here is the catch, and this is the core systems theory insight. A pattern can be incredibly stable, incredibly productive, and simultaneously driving you toward a cliff.
Say more about that.
Efficiency is just a measure of throughput. How fast can I turn a tree into lumber? How fast can I turn attention into ad revenue? The machine doesn't care if you run out of trees. It doesn't care if you destroy the social fabric.
It just cares that the machine runs smoothly right now.
Right now. That's the only time frame it understands.
So we have a vehicle that is optimized for speed, but it has no steering wheel and no brakes.
A perfect analogy.
And we're surprised when the ride gets bumpy.
And we're surprised when we run out of road.
Okay, so we've established the signal. We've been vibrating at this frequency extraction, growth, speed for centuries. But a wave doesn't just stay inside the instrument. It projects sound.
Yes.
The text says that a standing wave emits ripples.
Yes. This is the output. If the standing wave is the invisible cause, the incentives and values, the ripple is the tangible effect. It's what you can touch and see.
Give me some examples.
Your smartphone, that's a ripple.
Okay.
Globalized container shipping, that's a ripple. Industrial agriculture, monocultures, a ripple.
So even the way we date, swiping left and right, that's a ripple of speed and efficiency hitting human relationships.
Completely. The wave shapes everything. And usually we think of ripples as things that just dissipate. You drop a rock in a pond, the ripples move out, they get smaller, and they vanish.
Right, they just fade away.
And if we lived in an infinite universe, a boundless void, we could just keep extracting and emitting waste forever. The ripples would float off into space. We could act without consequence.
But, and this is the physics part, we don't live in a void, we live in a bounded system.
We live in a box. The planet is a sphere. It has limits. The biosphere has limits. But also, the human nervous system is a bounded container.
How so?
You can only process so much information before you overload. You can only handle so much stress before you break. It's a container with a boundary.
Okay, so in physics, when a wave hits a boundary, what happens?
It bounces back.
It reflects.
It reflects. The source material calls this the law of return. And it's a simple, brutal law.
Which is?
Ripples do not disappear. They reflect.
And this is where the historical analysis gets really interesting. The authors argue that humanity operates on a wavelength that is so long, and the system, the Earth, is so big, that for a long time we simply couldn't see the reflection.
We couldn't. We were shouting into the canyon, and the canyon was so massive that we thought there was no echo.
We thought we were shouting into emptiness.
Precisely. We spent 200 years treating the atmosphere like an infinite sewer and the Earth like an infinite quarry. We operated under the illusion of linearity. We thought, I do X, and X goes away.
But in a closed system, there is no way.
There is no way. There is only here And now, the echo is coming back. Loudly.
And this recontextualizes the news, doesn't it? It reframes everything we call a problem.
Everything.
The text argues that things like climate change, the mental health crisis, political polarization, we usually treat these as separate departments.
Right, separate files.
I have a generic anxiety about the climate and a separate anxiety about my 401k and a separate anxiety about why everyone on social media is so angry.
But the text says, no, that is the wrong way to look at it. These are not separate.
They're what?
They are the same wave returning at different frequencies.
Okay, break that down for me. That's a huge idea.
Think about it. When the wave of extraction hits the physical boundary of the biosphere and reflects back, we call it climate change and biodiversity loss.
Yeah.
That's the echo.
Okay.
When that same wave of extraction hits the economic boundary and reflects back, what do we call it? We call it wealth inequality and debt crises. It's the same extractive logic, just hitting a different wall.
And when the wave of speed over coherence hits the human brain and reflects back,
we call it the mental health crisis, burnout, ADHD, the inability to focus.
Wow.
That isn't a medical anomaly. It's a reflection of the speed we demanded from the system. We demanded a pace that biological organisms cannot sustain, and now the nervous system is reflecting that stress back at us.
So it's all the same signal. We are just the surface it's bouncing off of.
A bounded system remembers what it has been doing. That's the quote that stuck with me.
A bounded system remembers.
The energy didn't vanish. It just took the long way around.
That's terrifying, but also weirdly clarifying. It removes the randomness.
It does.
It's not that the gods are angry. It's not that we're just unlucky to be alive right now. It's simply resonance.
The physics of consequence.
But this leads to the biggest question I had while reading this. If the physics are so strict, input equals output, action equals reaction, why did it take so long? If we started this extraction engine in 1750 with the steam engine, why didn't the world collapse in 1850 or 1950? How did we get away with it for this long?
Now we arrive at the most beautiful and perhaps the most tragic concept in the text.
Which is?
Grace.
And we have to be careful here because grace sounds like we're about to start a sermon. It sounds theological.
It does. And the authors are very clear they are not using it that way. They're using it as a hard engineering term.
An engineering term.
In systems theory, you might call it buffering or hysteresis or damping. Grace is the gap between cause and consequence.
Walk us through the mechanics of that. Give me an analogy.
Okay, the best one is a shock absorber on your car. You hit a deep pothole at 60 miles per hour. Bam! That is a violent input of kinetic energy.
Right.
If that energy went straight to the chassis, the axle would snap or your spine would fracture. The consequence would be immediate and catastrophic. But the shock absorber takes that violent energy, compresses a fluid or a spring, turns some of that energy into heat, and spreads the impact out over time. It buffers the reality of the road.
So it absorbs the shock.
It absorbs the shock. That is grace. It allows the system to encounter a disruption without immediately breaking.
So grace is the delay. It's the time lag.
Grace is the delay. And the text argues that humanity has been the beneficiary of a truly staggering amount of unearned grace. We have been burning through buffers we didn't build.
What are these buffers? Can we list them?
The biggest one is the planet itself. The biosphere is an incredible shock absorber.
Okay, like what?
Take carbon emissions. We've been pumping CO2 into the air for centuries. Why didn't the temperature spike immediately?
I don't know. Why?
Because the oceans absorbed it. The oceans are a massive heat sink. They have absorbed something like 90% of the excess heat we've generated. That is thermal grace. The water took the hit so we wouldn't roast immediately.
So the oceans were our shock absorber.
A massive one.
Yeah.
The forests scrubbing carbon. That's grace.
Yeah.
Topsoil that took millennia to form. Grace.
And it's not just ecological, is it? The text mentions chronological grace, which I found really insightful. It talks about fossil fuels as a form of time travel.
That's a concept from ecological economics. Ghost acreage. Think about what coal and oil actually are.
Okay.
They are ancient sunlight. Millions of years of photosynthesis compressed by geology into a dense battery.
Stored energy.
It's stored time. When we found those deposits, we tapped into a reservoir of stored time. We suddenly had access to the energy of millions of years of sun, all available right now.
And that acted as a buffer.
A huge buffer against the limits of the present. If we had to rely only on the wood that grew this year, or the wind that blew today, we would have hit a limit immediately.
Right.
But because we had fossil fuels, we could grow the population and the economy way beyond the carrying capacity of the real-time ecosystem.
We were spending an inheritance.
We were spending an inheritance we didn't earn, which allowed us to ignore the costs of our lifestyle.
The text also mentions social buffers.
Absolutely. Social systems act as buffers too. Traditions, institutions, community trust. These are shock absorbers. They absorb the shock of rapid economic change. They keep people from tearing each other apart when the market crashes.
So grace sounds great. It sounds like exactly what we need to survive.
It is essential. Without grace, the first time a prehistoric human made a mistake, the species would have died out. Grace allows for learning.
It gives you wiggle room.
It gives you a safe space to experiment. It gives you room to make errors and recover. But, and here's the turn, the trap grace is a double-edged sword.
Because if the delay is long enough,
you stop believing the consequence exists.
you forget about the pothole because the ride is so smooth.
Exactly. We mistook the delay of the payment for the cancellation of the debt. Because the ocean absorbed the heat, we said, see, carbon doesn't really change the weather. The models are wrong. Because the cheap oil kept flowing, we said, see, there are no limits to growth. Malthus was wrong.
The grace made us arrogant.
The text puts it brutally. Grace made exploration possible. Grace also made denial tempting.
That is chilling. We used the buffer to blind ourselves. The shock absorber was working so well that we thought the road was perfectly smooth, so we sped up.
We floored it. We accelerated because the grace was holding. And the tragedy is, the more grace you have, the longer you can deny reality. And the longer you deny reality, the bigger the debt becomes.
Yeah.
You are building up a massive kinetic charge.
And that brings us to the now.
To right now.
The central thesis of the text regarding our current moment, the year we are living in, is simple. The buffers are full.
The shock absorber has bottomed out. It is metal on metal.
What does that look like in the real world?
The oceans are acidifying and saturated with heat. That's why we are seeing these rapid intensifications of hurricanes. The thermal grace is used up.
Okay.
But look at the social side. People are saturated. The trust buffer is gone. We don't trust institutions anymore. We don't trust the news. We don't trust our neighbors. The psychological shock absorbers are worn through.
And this explains the polycrisis, the everything crisis.
It explains the feeling.
The text uses a specific term for when the buffers break and the echoes return simultaneously. Phase locking.
This is the physics of why is it all happening at once. It's a critical concept.
Explain it.
Let's go back to the canyon. Imagine you're shouting into that canyon. The echo takes 10 minutes to return.
Right. A long delay.
For 10 minutes, you shout different things. You shout about the economy. You shout about politics. You shout about technology. You're just making noise, thinking it's disappearing. Suddenly, the echo from minute 1 returns. But then, almost immediately, the echo from minute 2 returns, and minute 3. Because the system is distorting and the buffers are failing, these echoes start to overlap. They arrive at the listener at the same time.
In physics, that's constructive interference, right? When two waves add up.
Exactly. Two waves meet, and instead of canceling each other out, they add up. They create a rogue wave.
So the climate crisis amplifies the economic crisis.
Yes. The harvest fails
Yeah.
because of a drought, which is a climate echo.
Which causes food prices to spike, an economic echo.
Which causes riots in the streets, a political echo.
Which causes a crackdown, an authoritarian echo.
It's not bad luck. It is stored resonance releasing. We are experiencing the accumulated backlog of the last century, all arriving in our inbox on the same Tuesday.
It feels overwhelming. I mean, reading this, I felt a physical weight in my chest.
I did too.
Because if the buffers are full and the echoes are returning and the waves are phase locking, that sounds like the end. It sounds like collapse.
And the text addresses that word head on. Collapse. We are terrified of it. We think of Mad Max. We think of a void. We think of the music stopping and everyone dying.
Right.
But in wave dynamics, collapse isn't an ending. It is a mode shift.
Explain the difference. What is a mode shift?
Go back to the violin string.
Okay.
If you bow it normally, you get a clean note, a nice standing wave. But if you bow it too hard, if you put too much chaotic energy into the system, the standing wave breaks down. The clear note disappears. It turns into a screech.
Right, that horrible sound.
That is incoherence. The wave pattern has collapsed. But notice, the string didn't disappear. The energy didn't vanish. The matter is still there.
It's just disorganized.
It's disorganized. And the system is forced to reorganize. It has to find a new pattern that can hold this new amount of energy.
So collapse is just the transition tunnel between one stable pattern and the next?
Yes. It is a phase transition.
Right.
Like ice turning to water. The structure of the ice collapses,
Yep.
but it becomes something
It
else.
reorganizes.
Now, the text is very sober here. It's not optimistic. It
Mm.
says, when a standing wave becomes incoherent, it destabilizes, fragments, and reorganizes. This is guaranteed change. It is not guaranteed improvement.
Right. The new pattern could be worse.
It could be much worse.
Yeah.
The system could reorganize into a pattern of high control authoritarianism to manage the scarcity. It could reorganize into feudalism.
Or,
It could reorganize into something more regenerative, something that actually matches the reality of the planet.
but the outcome isn't pre-written.
Not at all. The only thing that is guaranteed is that the old wave is done. You cannot go back to 1990. You cannot go back to the end of history.
Mm.
That waveform has collapsed. The energy is too high to hold that shape anymore.
Okay. I need to take a breath here.
It's a lot.
It's a huge amount to process. We've established the physics. We're in the mode shift. The buffers are gone. The echoes are here. The wave is screeching.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm listening to this on my commute or while I'm doing the dishes, I'm probably thinking, great, thanks for the panic attack. What am I supposed to do with this?
Right.
I'm one person. I have a job. I have kids. I can't stop a global phase shift.
And the text agrees with you. In fact, it warns you against trying.
It warns you.
It does. This is the section on the burden of awareness.
Yeah.
And I think this is the most compassionate part of the entire document.
It talks about the danger of martyrdom.
It says, one of the great traps of awareness is believing that seeing the whole obligates carrying the whole.
Say that again.
Seeing the whole obligates carrying the whole. Just because you understand the physics of the collapse doesn't mean you are physically capable of holding it up.
So I don't have to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders.
You can't. You cannot carry the karmic return of 300 years of industrial civilization. It is physically impossible. You are a finite mammal. If you try to internalize the entire climate crisis, the entire political crisis, into your own body, you don't save the world.
What do you do?
You just create a new casualty. You burn out. You fall into despair.
And despair, the text argues, is just another form of incoherence. It's more noise.
Exactly. Despair is useful to the old system because a despairing person is passive. They don't build anything new. They just vibrate at the frequency of collapse.
So what is the alternative? If we don't save the world, do we just give up? Do we go full hedonist, eat, drink, and be merry for tomorrow we phase shift?
No, that's just despair dressed up as a party. It's still a refusal to engage with reality.
So what's the third option?
The text calls for something called lawful work.
Lawful work.
And
Yeah.
lawful here doesn't mean obeying the laws of the state. It means acting in accordance with the laws of physics, acting in a way that respects the reality of the wave.
Okay. So this is the practical part.
This is the what do I do on Tuesday part.
It gives a really practical list. I want to break these down because this is the orientation part we promised. The compass.
Let's do it.
The first rule is do not add unnecessary distortion to the field.
Basically, don't make the noise worse.
Sounds simple.
It's incredibly difficult. We live in a time of high entropy, high disorder. Every time you doom scroll, every time you spread a rumor you haven't checked, every time you project your anxiety onto your partner or your children,
You're adding entropy.
you're adding entropy to the system. You are increasing the distortion. The first step of lawful work is be a dampener, not an amplifier. When the chaotic wave hits you, let it stop with you. Don't pass it on.
That is incredibly hard, but it's actionable. I can try to do that. The second rule connects to that. Maintain clarity where you are.
This is about boundaries. This is crucial. You cannot stabilize the global economy. That is out of your control.
Right.
But you can stabilize your household. You can stabilize your team at work. You can stabilize your local community garden.
So focus on your immediate circle.
The analogy I love here is the ship in the storm.
Okay.
Imagine you are on a massive ocean liner that is caught in a hurricane. You are not the captain. You cannot scream at the waves to stop. The storm is bigger than you.
Of course.
But you can secure the cargo in your own cabin. You can make sure the heavy objects aren't sliding around and hurting people. You can make sure the person standing next to you doesn't fall overboard.
That's local coherence.
Yes. And here's the radical idea in the text, the part that gives me hope.
What is it?
Local coherence is the seed of the new standing wave.
Oh, wait, explain that. Because I think we are trained to believe that real change only happens from the top down.
Right.
The president signs a bill, the UN passes a resolution, and then the world changes.
But that's not how waves work. And it's not how complex systems change. It's a fundamental misunderstanding.
So how do they change?
Think about water freezing. It doesn't all freeze instantly at the same nanosecond.
No.
It starts with a nucleation point. One tiny crystal forms, it creates a structure of order, and then the water molecules next to it see that pattern and they latch onto it. The order spreads from the crystal out.
So those pockets of local coherence are the nucleation points.
They are the only thing that can be. If the current standing wave is collapsing, the new wave has to start somewhere. It starts in small pockets of coherence that eventually link up and resonate with each other.
So when you choose stewardship over extraction in your own garden, when you choose slowness over speed in your interactions with your kids, you aren't just being nice. You're acting as a nucleation point.
You are literally vibrating at a different frequency. You are retuning the instrument. And the text says, ripples follow standing waves, not the other way around.
You have to change the signal to change the echo.
You have to. If you want a different echo, you have to emit a different sound. You have to embody the logic of the next era in the ruins of the current one.
This leads to a really interesting shift in ethics. The text moves away from guilt and towards function.
Yes.
We spend so much time feeling guilty about our carbon footprint or guilty about our privilege. It's exhausting.
Guilt is very heavy. It takes a lot of energy to maintain guilt, and from a physics perspective, it's mostly wasted energy.
So what's the functional alternative?
The old question, the political question is, who is to blame?
Right. Who's the bad guy?
The physics question is, what patterns are we reinforcing?
A completely different question.
A different universe. If you spend all your time fighting the old reality, you're still feeding it energy. You are still entangled with it. You are phase locking with the thing you hate. The goal is to starve the dead wave and feed the new one.
It's compassion without collapse.
Compassion without collapse. I like that. It's not about being a saint. It's about being functional in a broken world. It asks, which standing waves allow richer experience to continue?
So it's pragmatic.
It's pragmatic survival.
Yeah.
If a pattern, like endless extraction, leads to death, we stop feeding it. Not because we are good, but because we want to live.
I want to land on the phrase that really defined this whole document for me. It appears near the end, and it felt like the key to the whole lock.
I think I know the one you mean.
Humanity is not being punished, it is being answered.
It's the ultimate reframe.
It really is.
Deep down, I think many of us feel like we are being punished. We see the fires, the floods, the chaos, and we feel like we've been bad children and the universe is grounding us. Or that God is angry.
It feels that way sometimes.
But the text says, no, that is a childish view. You shouted into the canyon. You shouted extraction, speed, growth. For 300 years, now you are hearing the echo.
We are being answered by the field we shaped.
By the reality we created. It feels less lonely in a way, doesn't it? It implies a relationship.
It does. It implies agency.
If we are being answered, it means our actions matter. It means the system is listening. The earth isn't ignoring us. It is responding to us with perfect fidelity.
So the question isn't, is it too late?
The question is, can we listen to the answer? Can we hear the feedback, the fires, the floods, the unrest, not as a threat, but as data?
As information.
As information. Can we use that data to retune the wave before the reorganization becomes total chaos?
It moves us from victim of history to participant in reality.
Precisely. The buffers are gone, which means the feedback is immediate. That's scary, but it's also an opportunity. It means we can learn faster. We don't have the luxury of denial anymore. We have to learn to play a new song or the instrument breaks.
So let's try to summarize the takeaways for the listener, because we've covered a lot of ground.
Good idea.
Number one, the chaos isn't random. It's a stored echo returning. It is the physics of consequence.
Right. It's not bad luck. It's feedback.
Number two, the buffers, the gracer's full. We are in the phase shift. The old normal is gone, and it is not coming back.
It's on. We have to accept that.
And number three, and this is the big one, you cannot fix the whole thing. Your job is not to be Atlas holding up the sky.
No.
Your job is lawful work. Build local coherence. Secure your cabin.
And trust that those pockets of coherence are what the future is made of. That is how the new standing wave forms. Not by a decree from above, but by resonance from below.
The ocean remains. The waves continue. This has been a heavy one. My brain feels a little stretched.
Mine too.
But honestly,
Yeah.
I feel better. I feel
Oriented.
exactly. I know which way is up. And I know that the shaking isn't just destruction, it's reorganization.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to leave the listener with a challenge, a question.
Okay.
If you stop trying to carry the weight of the last 300 years, if you just, for a moment, put down the burden of trying to solve the global crisis in your head, What small part of your world could you bring back into balance today?
That's the question.
What local coherence do you have the energy to build in your home, in your work, in your own mind? Start there, because according to the physics, that might be the only way the big world changes.
It starts small.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
Take care.
See you next time.